Hello EU4 players, my name's Riemann, and in this video I'm going to go over the exploits in patch 1.22. I've taken these from the community from various forums, and here I'll show you what they are, how they work, and how to do them yourself. As always, an important disclaimer is that Paradox is pretty quick at patching these, and I make no guarantees they work on later versions of the game, so get them while they're hot. Furthermore, in most of the footage you'll see, I'm not doing Iron Man so I could quickly get into a position to show these off. However, these are all confirmed to be working with Iron Man, so if you want to use them to get achievements, you absolutely can. With that out of the way, let's get into 10 exploits in patch 1.22. The first exploit is going to be very useful to countries that rely on allies to get started. The situation you see here is a very common opener for Byzantium, where I called in Hungary and Poland into an early war with the Ottomans by promising them land. As you can see, they're doing the vast majority of the fighting, and as such, they'll expect most of the spoils. This often puts Byzantine players in an awkward position, where they could take all the land for themselves, but it would come at the cost of losing their allies pretty much forever. But with this exploit, you can have your cake and eat it too. What you have to do is look at the provinces your allies have marked with interest, shaded in yellow and red. Then all you have to do is release a country in one of the provinces and you'll completely negate the trust hit. Here I add releasing Wallachia to the list of demands, and you can see for just 11% war score I can dodge the trust hit with both of my allies despite doing less than 10% of the fighting myself. By releasing a country of any size, even an OPM, you can get the best of both worlds, taking most of the territory for yourself while keeping the trust of your friends. The second exploit allows you to manipulate the morale system to win battles you shouldn't. You probably know that a unit's morale is depleted when you switch to another unit type, for example when you'd upgrade infantry to the next type you unlocked from technology. The interesting thing is that morale doesn't actually get set to 0, it gets set to 0.5. Here you can see I'm in a very dicey battle with England, where it looks like I'm going to lose. I switch my infantry type from Latin Medieval to Halberdiers, setting all their morale to 0.5, rounded to 0.51. It looks like this actually put me in a much worse position, but I wait a day or two and switch them back, which once again sets morale to 0.51. As long as I keep flipping before any of the regiments hit 0, they'll reset and stay in the battle, effectively forcing them to keep fighting until every single one of them is killed. England's forces are routed within a few cycles. A couple notes on this. First, how many days you can wait between cycles depends on how fierce the battle is. I found that 2 to 3 days reasonably minimizes micromanagement while ensuring your regiments stay engaged. Another note is that in using this, you should take fewer casualties than if you were losing battles outright. By making your enemy rout, you'll ensure you'll be the one flanking them at the end of the battle, and since troops don't fight any worse with low morale, you really have nothing to lose. You could use this very effectively when artillery gets involved, because if you're able to keep your cannons in the backline just a few days longer, it could easily turn the tide of a conflict. The next exploit does the exact opposite as the previous one. It effectively gives your enemies infinite morale, the purpose of course being to stack wipe them. Here you can see I've just started a battle with Portugal. It's pretty obvious I'm going to win, but the most likely outcome is that they just scurry away after a beating. What you can do is simply drop the maintenance on your men after they're engaged. The maintenance slider won't affect your unit's morale, but it will affect their morale damage. By doing this, your enemies will heroically fight to the last man. When their numbers are 10 times lower than yours, you can turn morale back up because at that point their fate is sealed. The army will be obliterated either from everyone dying or from the 10 to 1 mechanic. By stack wiping them like this, you can throw your enemy into disarray, forcing them to fling together a new army from scratch, which you can often decimate before it groups up, and it'll be much more expensive for them than regular reinforcement. So this trick is great if you have one army, but what if you have many armies? Wouldn't this trick force all your armies that aren't engaged to be min-moraled? Well, no, there's a way around that too. All you have to do is wait to the end of the month, then set the slider back up to full, let the month tick over, then set the slider back down. Since the morale slider only impacts units on the monthly tick, you can effectively get both no morale damage and full morale on all your other units at the same time. The next exploit allows you to reset most Liberty Desire modifiers on your subjects. Here you can see I vassalized Cyprus, who has a Liberty Desire of 0. Then I do a bunch of stuff to irritate them, like enforcing religion, placing a relative on the throne, and disabling scutage a whole bunch of times. You can see they now have a huge liberty desire that would take decades to decay. To undo the damage though, all I have to do is set them to be a march, wait a month, and revoke the march. It costs a stability point, but this can oftentimes be well worth the cost for having all those negative modifiers removed. You can also use this repeatedly to chip away at their land by seizing their provinces. You can still revoke march status while at -3 stability, and the relations malice will cap out at -200, allowing you to do this however many times you need to eat nearly all your vassals' land. The next exploit allows you to get rid of Separatism. Here, I recently conquered England, so the Separatism is giving +15 unrest. To get rid of it, you need cores on the provinces in question, and then you need to tag switch. Here, I form the Netherlands, and the Separatism vanishes. Obviously, you won't be able to tag switch all the time, but it can still be useful to keep this in your back pocket if you're planning on taking tons of land and you don't want to deal with lingering rebels. The next glitch definitely isn't an exploit by definition, but it certainly feels like one. The AI in the current patch will never ask for military access. Here I attack Würzburg, who's allied to Hungary. In previous patches, the AI had an almost transcendent ability to march through dozens of nations across entire continents to get to fight you. But now, a nation that's blocked by just one other country with multiple alternate access paths doesn't join in the fight. When I remove the fog of war, you can see its numerically superior troops just sitting there. The obvious use of this is that you can ignore any of your enemy's allies who don't have convenient paths to fight. You have to watch out for conditional access from other wars or from special rules like the Holy Roman Emperor getting access to all HRE provinces during wars, but for the most part this shouldn't be an issue. This can be a huge factor in areas with many tiny countries, and can decisively shift wars in favor of the player because you can still ask for access, and any of your allies will share that access. With a little manipulation, you can make it so your allies can always join in the fray, but many of the enemy allies will sit twiddling their thumbs. However, Paradox has released a hotfix that aims to remedy this, and while it's only in beta right now, you should expect it in the live version quite soon. The next exploit is quite old, but is still situationally useful. Sometimes HRE members get subjects outside of the Empire, either as unions or as vassals. Here I've given Gotland to Brandenburg. When I declare war on Brandenburg directly, you can see the war message screen says Austria will join as the Emperor, which they end up doing. Nothing weird about that. But if I reload the game and this time declare war on Brandenburg's subject, it still says Austria will come in to protect them on the war message screen, but this actually isn't the case. If you declare war on a subject that's not in the HRE, even though the Overlord is, the Emperor won't get the call to arms. This will allow you to have a free hand to kill a member of the HRE without incurring Imperial wrath. The next exploit protects you from conquest early in the game. Other countries won't attack you if you have large alliances or a powerful Overlord looking out for your independence. One of the residual effects of older versions of EU4 is that initial map site in terms of terra incognita is determined by tech group. All nations in the Muslim tech group can pretty much see the same things, which can lead to some weird scenarios. One of them is that they can all see the Ming. Furthermore, there's something weird going on with the Ming in that very early in the game, they'll see pretty much any nation as a strategic interest worth making a tributary out of. It either happens before you unpause, or by about December 1444, so you can just ask to become their tributary, and now the AI shouldn't ever want to attack you because it calculates it would have to deal with all of Ming's troops. This works on any nation that can see the Ming at the start of the game, so if you're playing as someone like Granada or a Turkish Beylik that's in a precarious position, this can be a very easy insurance policy. Note that you do have to do this early on because it doesn't seem to work after the game gets going, but if you do a bit of planning, this can significantly ease difficulties at the outset of a campaign. This next exploit is unique in that it was actually discovered by me. At least, I haven't seen anyone post anything on it yet. It allows you to get rid of the Celestial Empire government form if you have the Mandate of Heaven. To explain this, I first need to explain the Empire of China mechanic. To the untrained eye, it might look like the Empire of China is one single entity, but it's actually a combination of a Mandate of Heaven country modifier and a Celestial Empire government type. Each has different attributes of the Empire of China as we know it, like the Mandate has celestial reforms and the CBs, while the government has meritocracy and decrees. Usually the two things are inseparable because the Celestial Empire has tons of prohibitions on events, decisions, and disasters that would change your government. If you wanted access to legitimacy, many country formations, or the revolution, you're basically out of luck. You could either delete all your troops and hope somebody would try to take the mandate from you, giving you horrible penalties for 2 decades, or there was a technique with a revolution disaster you could try, but it was quite situational. In all other instances, Paradox was extremely thorough in making sure there were no loopholes that allowed you to get rid of the Celestial Empire without paying a heavy price. They locked down every avenue, conventional and unconventional, to changing your government type. But they missed one. Poland has a special rebel type that you can get to spawn under the following conditions. You need to have your primary culture be Polish, you need to have a non-overseas Polish province, and you need to give the province to the nobles, then irritate them. The hardest part is getting Polish primary culture, which you would have to do by taking over some European provinces. Difficult, but doing a surgical strike on a few of them shouldn't be hard for a large empire. Then, switch culture the same way I outlined in my Mingles video, get a non-overseas province by culture conversion, give it to the nobles, annoy them, and accept rebel demands. Now you're an elective monarchy. From here you can either go through the normal Polish centralization events to become a regular monarchy, or just tag switch to somebody like the Mughals to flip that way. You'll still have mandate to contend with, but you'll keep your celestial reforms. You'll lose meritocracy and decrees, but you'll be free to tag switch at will and become the target of the revolution. The final exploit allows you to get infinite custom nation points, along with monarchs that have extremely high skills over the usual limit of 666. What you do is create a custom nation, leaving everything default for now, and save it. Then exit out of the game and go to My Documents, Paradox Interactive, EU4, Custom Nations. You'll see your nation you created. Open it with your text editor of choice. Scroll all the way down until you see your monarch, heir, and queen. You can change your monarch and heir skills to some high value like 500. Then change your consort skills to be extremely negative, like negative 50,000 each. Then save and go back to EU4. Create another custom nation, then load the one you selected. Since your consort's values are so negative, it gives you all the points you'll need to give yourself overpowered things like an immortal ruler, amazing ideas, and tons of land. Feel free to customize to your heart's content, then start up your Iron Man game. That's all the exploits I have for you today. Be sure to check them out quick before Paradox can patch them. Also, I put links in the description where you can find out more information on these. Be sure to check them out. My name's Riemann, and until next time, thanks for watching.